Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of SuperFantaFi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about From Season 3, Episode 5. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So, in the aftermath of last episode, it's kind of the next day, and it's like, what is our next move? Because Tabitha's back. Everyone's got questions about, like, well, how did she come back? She went to a tree. Like, what's this all about? So, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but, like, obviously, Christy, Jade, and Kenny made it back. I was wondering about the others. I guess they were staying at a different location, or maybe they came... No, yeah, because Dale was with them, so they were dropping off the food, and I guess they were going to come back. Whatever the case may be. It's a situation of everyone getting filled in on everything. It's like, wait, Tabitha's back. Oh, yeah, I forgot. We didn't actually pick up the next day because the ending of last episode was with Randall. So they brought Randall in, and obviously Randall is extremely pissed at Boyd for doing what he did. It's like, he left me. It's like, this place is, there's no win-win in this. It almost feels like you're always on the losing end. Just every time you feel like you make a stride forward, you always take a step back. So... And it's interesting because Kenny asked Boyd, like, why do you think they left him alive? And he's like, we have been able to delude ourselves into believing that, hey, we can live a regular life in this town, like, during the day and only have to worry about the nightmares at night. Randall, him walking around will be, him in broad daylight will be a reminder. It's meant to strike fear in you that you're like, right, you can't, there's no escapism during the day, that he's going to be a constant reminder even during the day. That's what Boyd thinks. I don't know. The fact is they took Randall, one of 3 people who went through everything last episode, that being him, Julie, and Marianne, so it could be that they did something to Randall. I guess he was out in the open, but he was the one that was seeing, like, those bugs and stuff, so I guess that might have been, like, a telltale sign that they were going to choose him. Once again, I don't know if it's a thing of, are we going to try and turn Randall into one of us? From what we've seen, it just seems like they jacked up his face. They didn't do anything else. Because you would think if they were, I mean, if anyone most likely to become one is like Fatima or her baby, just because of everything she's going through right now. I'd actually let it slip my mind until we showed it in the preview. I was like, oh, right, I forgot she was like digging into Nikki's bullet wound and drinking blood from it. It's like, Jesus. So... But yeah, because of all this, Jade, the moment he finds out Tabitha's back, he's like, holy crap, I got a whole bunch of questions for you. He wants to actually go to the tree, but it's like, let's not, considering Tabitha just got back. But it's like, Jade is going crazy because he's the only one really racking his brain around. He feels like he has the pieces of the puzzle, and he thinks Tabitha will be the one that help him be able to kind of piece things together. But... I mean, she's no closer to an answer than anyone else, because she still doesn't even know why she went to Maine. It's like the only thing she accomplished was bringing Acosta and Henry here. That's it. I mean, they could have had the benefit of those 2 ambulance drivers, but I mean, those people from the ambulance, those EMTs, but sadly both of them are dead. So that would have at least helped, like, oh, they have, like, some other medical experts, so you don't have to just rely on Christy and Marianne, but that's kind of a moot point now. For things to happen the way they did, I brought this question up before. Did Tabitha get out of this whole experience what she was supposed to get out of it? Or did this place, like, was she always on a timer and this place was always going to drag her back one way or another? We still don't even know how and why this thing chooses the people it does. Because, once again, so many people have been taken from all over the country. It is specifically, from what we can tell, it's specifically the U.S. I don't think, because they've, like, mapped out, like, where people were when they got brought to this place. But it doesn't seem like it's anyone from around the world. It's like everyone U.S. based, so... I don't know what that says about anything. Maybe they don't want to get into the larger implications of, oh... I mean, once again, someone could correct me, but I don't believe anyone from overseas is like, you know, like no one from Asia, Russia, or Europe has kind of been popped into here. I think it's just purely like U.S. based, you know? Maybe it's just easier that way, but I'm feeling like since they made it US-centric, it feels like there's probably reasoning behind that. Or maybe it's just like the implication of me. I've never actually thought about that this entire time. Of like, yeah, we've never had anyone internationally that we're aware of. Because once again, you know, like everyone's been US-based, you know? No one's come from like, oh, I was in England and I made it to this town. At least not that I remember. If that has come up so far, let me know. But it's like, was this place always going to draw her back? Was kind of like the whole point I was trying to make. Like, was she always on the timer, or was this place trying to find her? And like the boy pushing her out, giving her that out, was like ultimate. Like, it's always been looking for her, searching for her, and the accident gave it an opportunity. Like, oh, you're staying still long enough that I finally been able to track you down, and I yanked you back. I don't know, or maybe it's because she was getting too close to some revelation and it pulled her back, or I don't know. We won't really know because, once again, her and Henry were unconscious when the EMT and Acosta came to... Both the EMTs and Acosta came to, like, get them and take them back to the hospital or whatever. But a big through line in this episode is everyone's gathered in the diner wanting answers about what Tabitha went through. So she tells them everything that went down, and now everyone's upset with her because they're like, did you call anyone while you were out? It's like, well, we know she called her mother to let her know she was okay, but they're like, why did you call people? Let them... First and foremost, how, like, once again, people are going to be irrational. There is no rational way to, like, explain this to someone, because they were like, because Henry was like, I thought she was crazy, but it's like, yeah, but you believed her. And even he was like, yeah, but my circumstances are a little different. She had proof to prove, like, there was no other way. Like, two things. One, Henry already had a semi-connection to the place. Not only just Victor being alive, Miranda drew about this place before he got there. So, you know, Tabitha having Victor's lunchbox and all the stuff she said, it resonated with Henry because he, as he said, is a special circumstance. No one else would have been as willing to believe her, because even Acosta tried to be like, yo, I thought she was crazy. We didn't believe her when she tried to tell us, like, yo, be careful. Like, once again, none of you believed anything about this town until you were shown the truth about it. So how can you expect anyone from the outside? Like, what proof can she have? Like, once again, it's easy to backseat the situation. Like, oh, I would have done this, this, and this. It's like, she was in Maine. Who was she going to contact? She just escaped out of the hospital. If she explained it as, she would have been locked up in a psych ward, because people would have been like, oh, this lady had a mental breakdown. Because there would have been so many questions of, where's your family? Like, once again, Henry barely believed her, and he's mixed up in all of this, and he took some convincing. But yes, he was convinced, but his circumstances, as he said, and as I just brought up before, very unique circumstances. Like, Henry is probably one of very few people who would believe. Like, the odds of getting someone to believe you would be astronomical. Like, you'd be able to, like, she would also need to know everyone's last name. She knew enough about, like, oh, look up Kenny and his family. Like, I don't think that'd be enough to convince anyone. It's like, oh, what you think? Like, and even if they knew, what are they going to do? Like, how do you get to this place that randomly snatches you up and is like, you don't know how to get to? You just stumble across this place. You're on the road. You see a tree. You see the birds. Oh, it's all, and by then it's already too late. You're caught in a trap. So but like I said, no one's thinking rationally. People are scared. They're angry. They're blaming Tabitha about what she could have done differently and stuff like that. So they want to say, why aren't we out there going into the tree? It's like, once again, these trees teleport you random places. Even Boyd was like, dude, I went into one of those trees. I didn't end up at the lighthouse. I ended up inside of a chimney and almost died. It's like, yeah, it's not these things, like, they're randomizers, it seems like because you need to, like, be pointed in the right direction. It might even be a thing of the only reason why she got lucky and that tree took her to the lighthouse. It might be a thing of you have to be chosen, and she was chosen just like Miranda was. So it could be a thing. I mean, we don't even know what happened to Miranda. Miranda could have gone to the lighthouse and we don't know what happened, or she could have just got teleported somewhere else and died, like a certain someone at the end of the episode, right? It is frustrating because it's like, Boyd has done all he can to keep you safe, and obviously there was a routine to how everything's worked. There's a system, but all that's kind of started falling apart because this place has started to change. These things have gotten craftier and smarter, and they've done things, and people are scared because things are changing. They're running low on food, and they found an outside source for that, but it's still just, it's one thing after another, and it's once again, this place's biggest thing is like chipping away at your psyche. So now you have a town full of people who are just like, nah, like, we know what we need to do. Let's just go to the tree and, pop in there, and we're good and we're golden. Jade ends up going with Tabitha to try and find out, like, okay, what are what's these numbers in the bottles? Now it's like there was one, what was it, like 2659? Could it easily been like, oh, that could be like February 6th, 1959? Maybe. God knows how old this place is and why it is the way it is. Like, that's kind of something I think I brought up in season 1 of like, how long has this place been around? Is it like, has it predated? Like, I don't know if I've thrown out this theory. Like, you know, like the Roanoke situation in history where like, oh, this colony just magically disappeared. Wasn't there a Roanoke thing connected to this, or am I confusing it with something else? Oh my God. Like, once again, like so much of, it's been a while since I see season 1 and season 2. I can't remember if they've ever referenced Roanoke in comparison to like what's happening here, or is that like a parallel I drew? I don't want to, because I'm not smart. I'm an idiot, so I don't want to give myself too much credit. I'm like, it's like, and I'm sure other people have made that parallel. If the show's never made that parallel, I'm sure other people have, but I don't know. Like, that's, we just don't know how long this place has been around. Because, like, the oldest person we've seen is, like, who Jade was seeing that, like, wasn't he, like, a Civil War soldier or something like that? So, like, the 1800s or something, you know? So, was it even a Civil War soldier, or was it a more recent soldier, like a... I think it was a Civil War soldier that Jade had seen. Oh, God, once again, I'm sorry for my horrendous memory. But either way, my whole point for that diatribe was like maybe those are dates. Or it could be like, why else would you put the numbers there? And not unless they're in relation to like how many people of like, is there like a subsequential like could they be like, no? I was like, no, because you'd write people's names down if that was the case. I was like, could it be people who've gone through the tree and stuff? Like, what could the numbers mean other than that? Like, other than like being dates and maybe when people were here or something. But why would you write that down and nothing else? Why specifically 4 numbers? And they said it like it's 4 numbers in each one they've gotten. So, and that's a frustrating thing for Jade. It's like, I feel like I have all the pieces to this puzzle and I just can't quite crack it. You know, because he's like, yeah, he told Tabitha, like, after you left, like, I saw those kids in the tunnel. They were on these slabs saying that word, a cooey. And it's like, the symbol was the hole in the ceiling and the roots made that shape. And it's like, I don't know what to make of it. There was a calmness to all of that. Like, I don't know if that was like, has anything to do with the children that were taken because of the lighthouse situation of like the ones that are trapped, like were there sacrificial lambs or like what was that all about? And you go ahead and jump to the end of the episode with Dale. Dale going through the... I was like, what's going to happen to Dale? I was so curious about that. I'm like, okay, he's so smug and thinking he's got all the answers. And that's the thing of like, you're kind of like, I mean, it kind of makes sense of what happened to him because Dale is kind of... Early on, he was introduced to as the biggest asshole in this show. Reynolds, I think, come a close second, but I don't think he's as bad as Dale, but he can be. Because Dale just wants to act like he knows everything. It's like, yeah, you haven't really taken charge and you haven't really done diddly squat, Dale. But, yeah, he decides to go in the tree. He's like, yeah, I'll show you how it's done. You'll thank me when I come back with help. Goes into the tree, and I was like, okay, are we going to, like, is he going to teleport somewhere, get ripped to pieces, and then just gets left somewhere? I didn't know. And it's broad daylight, and the screams happen. And the moment they saw Dale, I was like, oh, did he teleport, and he's in the sky, and he fell down and hit the ground? Nope. He fused into a wall, so that's where it teleported him. So the faraway tree can literally take you literally anywhere. That in itself, that situation, you're like, ooh, that's the greatest fear about having the power to phase through things, because if you don't do it correctly, you could end up being stuck. Your molecules don't like come back together, like you don't easily phase through it, you just get stuck. That is horrendous. He's stuck in the wall. He's fused to the wall. That's sad, but you're also kind of like, oh, that's the poor thing about the character of Dale. Once again, nothing against the actor. He's just doing a good job playing an asshole. But you're like, once again, he's just like anyone else here who's scared and thinks he has a better solution to everybody else. And it's like, yeah, look what happened to Dale. And you had Boyd wanting to put him out of his misery, but he had already died before it. And so Boyd couldn't even give him that mercy. But now it's kind of on display for everyone in town to see. See? Any one of you want to go through the tree? Go right ahead. He's like, I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to keep you safe. He kind of stops the moment Donna comes, because I think for him it's like, well, regardless of how much of an asshole Dale was, he's still someone she was responsible for, so it's kind of like a gut punch of, damn, Like so, but also she had her breakdown last episode after Nikki died. Another one of her care. So like now more people that are under her care, that her leadership is dead, and Boyd knows what that means. He's struggling with like lives being in his hand. He always has, but it's gotten even harder recently because this place is doing its damnedest to grind them into the ground and break them. And I think this is like, you know, Donna's at her breaking point as well. I mean, it's just one thing after another, so. You had the whole Julie and Elgin situation. I thought that was interesting because I was like, what is she coming there for? I was scared when she was in that little room. I thought, like, Fatima showed it, and they showed it in the recap of, like, right, even a nightmare you get high enough can be a dream, look like a dream. I thought she was going to stumble across, like, oh, maybe Fatima, like, kept some pieces of Nikki or something. But I'm like, probably would have noticed. Once again, I was like, if you start eating Nikki, people are going to notice, like, missing body parts or something. So I guess she sucked on some of the blood from the wound as, you know, before, like, it just stopped, before her body just stopped bleeding after, like, being dead for a while. So she probably couldn't feed on it anymore. But either way, I thought she would stumble across that. No, she was just getting some recreational drugs to ease her mind. So her and Elgin sit down, and it's like, right, they talk about the woman in the kimono, and Julie talks about the screaming that's in her head. More so like the fear, and just she can't talk to her parents about it because she's like, what can they do? That this meeting, hoping that it will resolve something, but she's like, I don't think it will, because she's like, I think this place let my mom out just to give us enough hope to break us. This place is meant to make us suffer, and it's never going to let us go. Probably it's that whole thing of like, oh, it feeds off of not despair, but it feeds off of hope. So it needs you hopeful so it can sustain itself. Maybe. I'm curious to see where that goes, especially the whole kimono woman thing, because I was like, that's not going to end up being like Victor's mom or something, is it? But I'm probably not. But I'm like, what is that all about? When they were like finding clothes and stuff in that little area in there, the last scene with them, I was wondering if they were I thought they were gonna come across the kimono, and that was gonna be like, wait, why is this here? What does this mean? They even found that camera, which I'm wondering if there's gonna be significance to that. It's not a digital camera; it's an old Polaroid camera. So, and they took pictures of each other, and they were just kind of playing because they just needed an escape from everything just for a little bit, I think. So I guess just seeing those characters bond and get closer, I'm curious to see if anything ends up happening because of that. I know Julie kind of made a move on Fatima back in season 1, but I don't know if we've got a clear indication of, I mean, for one, it could just end up being a platonic thing, or maybe it could morph into something more, I don't know. The Julian Elgin thing, which I made sure to remember his name this time, but I guarantee you I'll probably end up forgetting. I'm so horrible with names. We also had the Victor situation. He came to Colony House with Sarah, which Sarah went inside. Not the best decision, because she looked around and saw everyone kind of giving her the, you know, stink eye, and she's like, I'll wait outside. But Donna tried to tell Victor, like, yeah, your dad is here. And he's like, what? No, this can't be. And he runs away. And it's sad because, like, Victor and Henry both kind of have a similar reaction where, and because Henry talks about it, he's like, for the first few years, he's like, I would turn corners halfway expecting my wife and my children just to be there smiling, and then just for reality to kind of smack you in the face. And he wouldn't like that for a few years until, like, after that, it's just like, I can't do it anymore. Hope is so damaging, and just the more time that goes by, the harder it is to hope. So it's easier, rather than holding on to that hope that's ripping you apart every day, just to kind of accept the fact that they're dead. And for him, it's like, my little boy was here for so many years alone. What kind of father gives up on his family? And at the same time, you have Victor kind of worried about, like, the person he's become. It's like, well, my dad looks at me like, what if he doesn't see the little boy he knew? And they're both so afraid of what the other might think of, like, oh, I'm the father that gave up on the son. Oh, I'm the son that doesn't look like the boy that my father knew. And so they were kind of It's more so Victor was avoiding him than him avoiding Victor, but it is a real sad situation. And even Sarah tried to give him a pep talk, which I love that. And she's like, I'm not going to sit here and I'm supposed to sit here and tell you like, oh, he's your father, he'll love you regardless, but I don't know like how he's going to react. And Victor's just like, wow, you really are bad at this. But for her, it's like, you are a good person. I've seen that. She's like, I'd give anything to be a good person after what I've done. So it's kind of that thing of, you won't know until you actually talk to him and see him. So, and that scene between them, I won't lie to you, I teared up. I was like, it was a beautiful reunion where it's just kind of like Henry hugging him, especially too because Henry just had that conversation with Ethan where it's like, yeah, sometimes he's not Victor's my best friend, but sometimes he'll say stuff like he doesn't want to be my friend, and I think he pushes people away because he's scared. And it's like, what could he be scared of? He's like, that I'm gonna die. He's like, everyone he's ever loved here has died, and that's why Victor kind of keeps his distance from people. He tries not to get attached because he's scared of losing people you care about is going to break you. Like, it's just kind of, even when he found out like, oh, what happened here, it's like, well, Randall got messed up a little bit, but Nikki died, and Victor just kind of like, oh, like he's just, I think that's, the only person he's really gotten close to is Ethan, and now he's gotten close to Sarah too. So, because even Sarah was like, yeah, I know I don't really know you that well, but yeah, you seem like a good person. But either way, that reunion, like I said, made me tear up because he's, Henry's trying to console him. It's like, it's okay. He's like, I'm sorry. I didn't know how to get back home. He's like, it's okay. It's okay. And it is kind of this also beautiful and interesting parallel that each respective person, like, right, Henry was with Ethan and who was Victor with Sarah, and considering their connection in the grand scheme of things, it's interesting that those two characters were there for this father and son in their own way. So it's going to be interesting to see where this all goes, especially because taking what Victor potentially knows versus what his father knows from like Miranda's drawings and stuff. Victor also did bring up an interesting point, just along the lines of him like scared about meeting with his dad. He's like, I've drawn a lot of stuff so that I could basically keep the memories of stuff here. And for him, it's like, I never drew my dad. He's like, because it was easier to pretend like that was a dream. And it's like, hey, you do what you need to survive. So it's easier to be like, rather than longing and hoping to, I mean, it's the direct parallel to his father being like, I have to accept they're dead because it's easier than holding out hope because that's going to kill me more. And so Victor didn't want to hold on to hope. So it's like, right, everything I lived before at this place was a dream. I don't want to hold on to any belief of like, oh, I could get home. Once again, you're a kid surviving in this place for years and years and years, and you just wanted to do what you can to survive, whatever you needed to survive. Either way, there's the whole situation. Like I said, Boyd is going through it because he kind of chew Acosta's head off, and she's like, right, thank you for having my back during that meeting, saying it wasn't my fault, it was an accident, and even trying to give a suggestion of, yeah, she's like, a storm hit our town, and it was just a situation of people are scared and angry, so you just need to give them a project, something to focus on, because they just, standing still just isn't doing it. And Boyd snapped at her. He's like, the fact of the matter is, I said that you, weren't to blame, but it's like, we're not friends now. You come here trying to tell me how to run this town, and like, oh, you've been here like a day and you have a solution and stuff. It's like, yeah, you killed someone, accident or not, you're still responsible for that. So kind of chewed her head off, and he'll apologize for it later, I hope, before something happens. Or it's just, he's already getting shit from the entire town, feeling like he doesn't do enough, even though he's doing everything he can, and I think that's what, it just rubs him the wrong way that he get. It's that situation of, even the bus driver lady like commented on like, I'm sorry I didn't have your back. I get, you're trying your best here. You're trying to do what's right by people, and people are just scared and angry, and you're trying to take your head off. And it's like, none of us really know what's going on. None of us have like great solutions. It's easy, once again, to backseat being like, oh, I would have done this, I would have done that. But it's like, yeah, but there's no guarantee it would have worked. You can't say, yeah, we can live in what ifs, but what ifs is, and that's the whole point. Like, this place wanted Tabitha in front of everyone to break them even more, to be like, yeah, everyone to go off and do something stupid. Like I said, that frustration's just wearing on Boyd, and like I said, Acosta just having to be the brunt of it. I mean, Fatima and Ellis weren't doing Boyd any favors. Instead of backing him, Fatima in particular was the one kind of stoking the flames. Once again, her circumstances being what they are, she hasn't really talked to anyone about it. Like, Tilly knows a little bit, but she doesn't really know everything. So Fatima was, extra scared. So I think that informed a lot of what she was saying, or played a massive role in her frustrations. And then on top of that, like, Ellis adding more fuel to the fire by being like, oh, I agree with her, which Boyd had, because he's like, oh, it's better to do something rather than to sit around doing nothing. And Boyd's like, oh, that's what you think I did? I guess I've been doing nothing for the past 2 seasons. I guess I didn't go to the tower, smash that music box to help Julie, Randall, and Marianne. He didn't say that, but I'm always going to bring that up. It's like, I ventured out there to get answers and haven't really gotten any. And you guys want to sit here. Once again, it's easy to coach and quarterback from, like, the peanut gallery, essentially. So he's like, no, go ahead. Who's going to be next? And Ellis is like, it's not like that. He's like, no. Whatever choice you made, who are you willing to sacrifice? And he kind of looks at Ellis, exactly my point. You want to act tough like you've got all the answers. You don't have this shit figured out. You've just been kind of on the sideline. You haven't been in my shoes dealing with everything I've done. It's easy to judge me when you haven't been in my position. You get to be on the outside judging my actions. How about you take a step into this and try and deal with everything, trying to keep people safe and see how long, the depth and the guilt that weighs on your shoulder. So, which, speaking of Ellis and Fatima, he ends up finding her and she confesses to him everything. It's like, this is what's only food I can keep down. It's all the rotten food. I think something's wrong with the baby. I agree as well. So how do you handle that situation? Do you go to Christy? Do you go to Marianne about that? Especially at a time where people are a little extra frightened, a little freaked out, is this really going to be the best time for news about Fatima's situation to get out of, like, oh, wow, she's eating all this rotten fruit and ill. What's up with her? What's this mean about her and her baby? The fears I have of, oh, could she be turning into one of these monsters? People in the town could start feeling a certain way. So We'll see. I could definitely see Ellis keeping that to himself, not even telling his father about it. Oh yeah, there's also this interesting thing that Henry brought up, which was kind of, he's like, okay, there's a pool and there's a motel sign, but where's the actual motel? I think I talked about that as a previous theory about this place, that maybe this place is it's not a real place. Like, they brought back the whole point of, like, this, like, once again, the plugs to the electricity don't go anywhere. Like, there's nothing that's powering any of the lamps and stuff. The phone that Jim ripped off, I didn't talk about it at the time, but like when he was hearing Thomas's voice and they were talking to Ethan, like, he pulled it. Yeah, that was last episode. Yeah. And he pulled it off the wall. He was kind of like, well, he was looking at, like, there's nothing behind it. So it's a little thing to keep bringing up from time to time, but my theory was, like, could this place be a living entity that constantly updates itself? Like, once again, let's say it's been around since, like, the 1800s, and it updates itself just to fit a more comfortable nature of what people might be more associated with. I don't know. Not unless this thing is kind of, like, a little bit like the Void in Loki. If you've seen Loki, how it's just, like, an amalgamation of, like, stuff that was kind of pruned in the timeline. Like, what if this is kind of a thing? Like, maybe, why was it just a motel and a pool? Like, were they the only thing brought here? Or was it actually a motel at one point in time, but one of the places was turned into something else? Was it set somewhere else? There's just a lot of questions on that. And the fact is they gave that to Henry makes me go, like, feels like that's probably going to be an important key factor to keep in mind. Like, because that doesn't just seem like some throwaway dialogue. It feels like that's probably as pertinent. Why isn't there a motel here, even though there's a pool from a motel and a motel sign? So, a lot of interesting developments. It's definitely going to be interesting to see, especially in the aftermath of all this with poor Dale, R.I.P. What happens with the town now? You'll probably be able to rein people in a little bit more because no one's going to be crazy enough to just jump into one of those faraway trees now because of this. So, but really, that's all I wanted to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.